Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Random Redshirt podcast. I am one of the hosts, Zach, and the other host is Chris. What's up, bro?
Hello, my great friend Zach. Excellent to see you. Hello, everyone around the world and the solar system and the interwebs and Atlas 3I. If anyone is listening from that body entering the solar system, it's hot. It's October, isn't
It's
it?
October.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. And at the time of this recording, we're just over halfway through the month. And coming up, Chris, is the end of this month is Halloween. And so that means it's time for what's become now our annual Random Redshirt podcast Halloween science fiction series.
Ah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. I know we talked about um some franchises that we want to watch. I realize that there's a whole bunch of things in Star Wars Clone Wars that I've never seen, so I'm looking forward to seeing those as well as I know we've talked about Battlestar Galactica, and there's going to be plenty of stuff to watch. Alien Earth Wars, which you and I still need to catch up on watching. So
Yeah.
that'll be very, very interesting. Yeah. It's gonna be
There
fun.
is a lot. And if this is your first time watching or listening to us, welcome to the Random Red Shirt podcast. We're a couple of nerdy guys who like to talk about all things nerdy and geeky. And also, if you didn't already know this, the last, I think, couple of years, we have done like a Halloween series or a
Mhm.
Halloween special. I think the first time we just did a one-off Halloween special where we just kind of talked about some recommendations of things that are science fiction in nature to watch around Halloween or on Halloween if you're not into all the gory, disgusting movies and shows that are normally on this time of year. If you don't like that really scary, gross stuff. And then it kind of morphed a little bit into a little bit of a series, right? Where we
Uh,
pick a few different episodes of things that we kind of deep dive on things that we really like and are good for this time of year to watch, leading up to our special Halloween series where we give you a list of tons of recommendations that you can watch that is sci-fi in nature.
yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be fun. You and I are very similar in that, the gory, really scary, grotesque horror movies we find difficult to watch.
Yeah.
Understandably, there's an audience for that, and so totally get it.
Yeah.
It's just like not our genre. I'll
Not
just,
really. No.
yeah.
I have gone back and just watched a couple of the
Hmm.
quote unquote like horror classics. Just because I was curious, I'd never watched them, never really had an interest in watching them, but I was like, why not? So I watched the original Friday the 13th, and I have watched the original Halloween.
Yeah.
Neither one of them to me, I mean, neither one of them are super, they're not really super gory or anything like that. I think it's just the nature of those particular movies. Now, obviously, other movies in those franchises got really gory and gross and disgusting, but the very first ones, the original ones, and to me, they weren't super scary. They were suspenseful, which is what I like. But I
Yeah.
do not like I mean, the jump scares, okay, whatever. Those kind of get old after a while. But anyway, so I watched those two movies and I didn't find them to be all that awful as far as the stuff that you and I do not like. So,
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my friend. So, thank you for suggesting the TNG episode that we are watching today. And so the last thing that we watched was Section 31, right? The movie of Section 31. So, coming back to TNG was like a very nice like refresh, coming back to everything to kind of reset our minds, kind of cleanse things out and like go, oh, okay. I feel like I'm watching Star Trek.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting about this episode, Chris? Well, a couple of things. First of
Yeah.
all, it's a great, great episode to watch around Halloween if you're a
Hmm.
science fiction fan and a Star Trek fan. But also for us personally here on the podcast, we have really not touched TNG hardly at all. And I'm not talking about Picard season 3. I'm talking about the Next Generation series.
Yeah, yeah.
Not the original Next Generation series because that kind of doesn't make sense. But TNG, we have barely scratched the surface. I think the only things we've done for TNG is we talked about the pilot episode and we did kind of like a series overview like years ago. I think it was in our second season of the podcast. I think we
Hmm.
talked about TNG maybe as a whole and some of our favorite episodes, but we really haven't deep dived much of anything TNG related. So it is great to come back to TNG. I know there's a ton of TNG episodes that we'll probably do down the road as one-offs, things like the Inner Light and so forth. So we'll definitely cover TNG at, many times over, I'm sure, over, X amount of years, however long we do the podcast, right? But this episode to me, when we started talking about this year's Halloween series, Chris, this was one of the first things that popped in my mind of episodes that I was like, we got to deep dive this one because this has everything you would want for Halloween wrapped up in a science fiction slash Star Trek episode.
Yeah. How did you come about like seeing it? Was it just on like and you saw it again randomly, or did you decide to go and select and watch it as an episode?
Yeah, I went and decided to select and watch it as an episode one day. This was quite a while ago. And then I
Yeah.
came back to it again because I knew we were going to be doing our Halloween series coming up.
Okay.
And I was like, and we had been talking about ideas, right, for what episodes we could deep dive this year. And this one, I mean, there was a few. This one, there was a couple Voyager ones, there was a couple DS9 ones, things like that. But this one just kept coming, and Battlestar Galactica too. This one just kept coming back into my mind over and over again. And I said, okay, I'm taking the hint from myself here that we got to talk about this one for sure. Last year on our Halloween series, if you haven't watched it or listened to it, be sure to go check it out. We deep dive The Haunting of Deck 12 from Voyager. We
Hmm.
deep dive Impulse from Enterprise. Those were two awesome episodes that we talked about right around Halloween time.
Yeah, it was good. Genesis as an episode has always I found it very, very memorable. So
Hmm.
it had been a while since I went back and rewatched it. So I rewatched it recently and I saw it a couple times. But it had always been in my mind um as a memory because there's some very memorable parts about it. For me personally, the very memorable parts of it were Troy turning amphibious and then Worf turning into this this primeval version of a Klingon,
Yeah.
essentially very primitive version of Klingon. So those always kind of stuck in my mind in my memory. So it was a an episode I remembered for sure.
Yeah, for me, this episode, what I always remember from having watched it in past years was the setting, right? Like the Enterprise is adrift.
Yeah.
It's dark. You can tell things have happened on the ship. Stuff's messed up. There's a lot of creaking and noises and that kind of haunted house sort of spooky feel
Mm.
to it.
Yeah.
The dark ambiance. I mean, it was so well lit. It was so well shot. Everything about it to me screams Halloween time. So let's jump into this, Chris, because this is an awesome episode. We're gonna have a blast talking about this. For those of you who don't know, or maybe you do, this episode was written by Brandon Braga, who we know was part of the creator along with Rick Berman for Voyager and Enterprise. And what's also interesting, because her character is to blame for the issue that happens on the Enterprise, it was directed by Gates McFadden. And I think, Chris, we have to give her a lot of props for this from a directorial standpoint, because I think the shots were wonderful. Everything about this, the lighting, the tone, the mood was all so wonderfully set to set up this really spooky, creepy episode.
I really enjoyed it, and I think she did a fantastic job directing it. What stood out for me on the episode were those the subtleties of the relationships between the characters. So in this particular episode, which was probably we were in our face reminded of it, Zach, is that there was the relationship between Worf and Troy. So
That's
we
true.
had deleted it. We had deleted it, and then we came back to this episode, and there, oh, there, it's there, right? So,
Yeah.
so
I'm trying to remember, Chris, was there a little fling they had? Was that like just in season 7 or was it in 6 like did it carry over multiple seasons? Because I do want to say it was fairly short-lived, wasn't it?
yeah, I think it was the last season because I remember
Which
it
is
was,
what this
yeah,
season is. This
yeah,
episode's in that season,
yeah,
so
because there's still a glimpse of it in the season finale, All Good Things, as I recall. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, maybe
yeah,
you're right. Yeah.
yeah. So it is there, and the subtle. What I like about it is, there's kind of some subtleties between that you observe Riker like on how he reacts to Worf, like on the bridge when Worf is doing um, the weapon systems testing,
Hmm.
and you just uh, Riker's like he is annoyed. Right? He's just got these eye movements where it's like he is annoyed at Worf like this whole time. And I like that. So to Gates McFadden, would have kind of drawn all of that out in these interactions. So very much enjoyed that.
Yeah, there's definitely some tension. You can see it, right?
Yeah.
Like Riker's looking at Worf like you're going out to my ex-girlfriend, basically.
Hmm.
And that kind of, I don't want to call it a love triangle because it's not quite a love triangle, but just this idea that, he's kind of snatched his girl away from him a little bit. And, some of the relationship with Worf and Troy is kind of Riker's fault a little bit. He kind of pushed Troy away and he
Yeah.
doesn't really know what he wants to do. And he wants his own command, but he doesn't really want to leave. And all this indecisiveness. And Troy's just kind of, I guess, at some point she's like, well, when you make up your mind, let me know. And, I know she
Yeah.
doesn't say that, but you know what I mean? This kind of thought and feeling, you can tell that Troy's kind of just sick and tired of being strung along, I think.
Ah, that's a really good point. Yeah, really good
S-
point.
So, at the same time, you can't exactly fully blame her. I think Riker
Hmm.
definitely has a part in that whole
Yeah.
relationship thing. But
Yeah.
um, okay, well, this episode opens up in sick bay with Nurse Agawa tending to Commander Riker, who's having cactus spines removed from his back.
Yeah. And so like it's opening in sick bay and you've got a lot of the senior officers in sick bay. You see that? Yeah.
Yeah,
Riker's in there, Data's in there with Spot with the cat.
yeah.
Barkley's in there with he's with his hypochondrianism.
Yeah.
If I'm saying that right.
Barkley's
Yeah.
being Barkley, right? His
Yeah.
hypochondriacness.
Yeah. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
like, I've got this. I've got all this stuff that's wrong with me. So I really enjoyed that. A whole bunch of the senior officers were there. I was like half expecting Captain Picard like to come in as well to sick bay. So Dr. Crusher totally had like her hands full, especially with dealing with like Barkley having her hands full with that. And okay, just to point out, like as I was watching this again, the whole reason why Riker has those cactus spines in his back is because he was, they asked Nurse Ogawa asked him like, how did this come about? Like you rolled over a cactus in the arboretum, and he goes, "Oh, well, that new tactical officer, like Rebecca Smith, uh, you know, it started to get romantic, and he rolled around." And I'm thinking, back of my mind, Commander Riker. I mean, come on, come on. There's got to be. Where's HR in this, Zach?
Yeah. They don't exist on the ship, Chris. We've already learned that. They don't exist. Starfleet is clearly devoid of HR departments. I
Yeah,
guess the HR department is the counselor's office, but Troy isn't. Troy's kind of compromised because she has feelings for Riker, so she wouldn't be a good example of an HR rep.
that's right. Yeah. So I always get a kick out of that.
Riker was channeling his best Kirk. I
Yeah.
mean, think about TNG as a whole, right? Riker tends to get with the ladies a lot. He kind of takes on the role of Kirk with all the different alien women. I
Hmm.
mean, he has kind of his on and off with Troy, but then he's also got these other women and stuff that he, becomes infatuated with for an episode and seems like he's falling madly in love. And then nope, the episode's over. Just kidding, we're not in love, kind of thing. There was not that serialization where they're continuing on these relationships. Even Picard had that one or two little flings, and then they
Uh,
ended quickly.
yeah, they
So,
did.
yeah, no, that is very, very funny that Riker had to admit, yeah, he was kind of messing around with a girl in the arboretum,
I
and this kind of
know.
was the result of that. So,
Ah, gosh, man. Gosh,
yeah.
man.
Now, this episode does start out funny. It does start out with some lighthearted moments here. But this is going to change very quickly as this episode goes on, right?
Yeah, absolutely does. Um, and that's kind of the great characteristics of great episodes, right? There's some funny levity at the beginning, and then the tone shifts, and then things get very mysterious, um, and very creepy. Creepy is a good word for this. Those
Yeah.
creepy episode. Yeah, this. Um, So, Dr. After Barkley's like saying, I've got all this stuff that's wrong with me. I mean, she does discern that, oh, he's got a form of the flu, I believe. It was some sort of flu. That is,
Yeah, he had a
yeah,
mild case of Urdelian flu. Even
Urdelian
though, as we know, Barclay diagnosed himself, which is
flu.
never a good thing, and he always thinks he has something that's going to kill him.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's just a very mild case of this alien flu.
Yeah. Yeah. And apparently that particular alien flu is normally like fought off. The infection is fought off by T cells in human bodies. And so
Mhm.
for some reason, Barkley just didn't have that like active in his body. So Dr. Crusher, like I think she formulates a synthetic T cell and injects Barkley so that his body can naturally fight off the disease.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Crusher's doing what she would normally do a doctor. The other wrench in this, which I don't remember them addressing in the episode after everybody starts to de-evolve, is that Nursagawa mentions and reveals that she is pregnant.
Yep. She is.
But during the whole de-evolution, I don't think we ever see her character again, do we, in the episode?
We do because so when the whole thing was Spot and Spot's kittens, and then
Hmm.
them kind of realizing the kittens were protected because of Spot being pregnant. Then Data goes, "Oh, Nursagawa's pregnant. I'm gonna go check her out, and then and do some samples from her amniotic fluid, and then use that to synthesize a cure for the virus." So
But we didn't see her though, right? In the episode. I mean, they mention her, but I don't think we see her on screen again, do we?
you
Or
see
at least not till the very end, maybe.
you see a like a primate version of her on the bed in sick bay. So you
Oh
yeah,
yeah, you're right.
yeah.
Yep, you're right.
Uh,
Because I was thinking to myself, how is the de-evolution or de-evolving element of this affect her baby?
yeah, yeah.
Right?
And
Like
you
would the baby like go from where it was and start, I guess, changing back to the way it was in the beginning,
uh
or you know,
yeah, no, apparently with the pregnancy the babies were protected by the uh
that's right.
by the barrier. Yeah, were protected in the pregnancy from
By
being affected by the virus. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
amniotic sac and everything, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, you got
Yeah.
it. And then and Nursagawa was in a little bit as well when they were in the conference room and they were talking about what was happening to the crew with she was in it with Geordi and Riker. So
Mm.
that
I think we should note here, Chris, does it always seem like every time Picard leaves the Enterprise, he comes back and something's been screwed up or something's happened or there's an accident or something's gone wrong? I feel like every time he leaves, something happens. And I don't know if that's an indicator of Riker as a leader or if that's just bad luck.
No, you are absolutely right. I want to talk about this.
Okay.
You're absolutely right that something happens when Picard is gone. Okay, so when they're on the bridge, right, doing the weapon systems like testing, I, I watched this scene a couple times. For me, I was like, you could tell, Riker's a little bit agitated and he's like super annoyed with Worf. And
Yeah.
super annoyed. He's like, I don't even like that guy being in the same room with me. And
Yeah.
then, Worf is Worf, and like Worf is agitated too, and his tension's really high, and he's kind of like boasting, I designed the weapon systems myself, and blah blah blah. And Riker's, just kind of like, whatever, dude. Okay. When the malfunction happens, Picard goes up and is like, okay, what happened, Lieutenant? And Worf's like, it malfunctioned, and Picard's like, okay, like we'll abort and destroy it, and that doesn't work. Okay. Picard could not wait to leave. He knows like there's this stuff going on between Riker and Worf and Troy, and he's like, he could not wait to leave. He's like, I'm gonna go like look for that torpedo myself. The captain is gonna go do that, right? And he's like, and Data with me, the other like really. So he takes Data, who'd be like a calm companion on the trip. So I thought it was funny. I was like, Captain Picard is like sensing all this tension. He's like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave. You guys figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm gonna go spend some quiet time alone and just look for the torpedo for a couple days.
I mean, it's kind of a good move on his part, right?
Yeah, it was a
He's
good
he,
move.
he doesn't want any part of this. I mean, we've talked about Picard's leadership in the past, and we've talked about this idea that Picard maybe sometimes was a little too soft on his crew because we see that when Captain Jellicoe comes on board, right?
Yeah.
And he kind of whips the crew into shape, and they're really laxed and easygoing, and just they're used to just kind of, oh well, if I show up a few minutes late, that's okay, and this, that, and the other, and things are much different under Jellicoe, and you can argue whether it's good or bad, but yeah, I think Picard gives his senior officers a lot of leeway.
Mhm. Yeah, he does.
And in this case, I think instead of just him looking at Riker and Worf and be like, "Hey, you two, off my bridge until you get this crap figured out," he's like, "No, I'm out, guys. I'm good. I'm good. I'm out. I'm out."
I'm out. I'm out.
Very Picard move, I think.
Very, yeah, yeah, you're right. He's like, I'm out. I'm taking data. I'm gonna go on the shuttle. I'm gonna read a book. He's
Yeah.
like,
Very
I like
very
that.
if I may use a phrase, very what Picard maneuver 2.0.
That was a
Yep.
good. It was a good maneuver, because if he would have stayed, then yeah, they would have all been. They would have all had it.
Yeah, other than Data wouldn't have been affected because
Oh,
being an
right, right,
android,
right.
right? But
Yeah,
even still, it Picard would have been affected too,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And actually, the longer Picard's on the ship until they find the cure, I believe he starts being affected by the airborne T cell.
He does.
So, and he starts having a lot of issues with nerves and being scared and everything. So that certainly plays a role in that, which is in the importance of him and Data getting things done in order to come up with a cure to get everybody back to normal.
Yep, yep, exactly. Yeah.
So before they leave, however, Data says, "Hey, I need a couple minutes, Captain, to attend to a personal matter." And we find out that Spot is pregnant. And he asks the one person that Spot basically is comfortable being around and everything like that. And of all people, it's Barkley.
Tenet Barclay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I thought that was funny. I, because Data's absolutely right. Like Spot doesn't get along with many of the others, and so
No,
um, which made me remember some episodes where yeah, Spot had like swatted at Commander Riker, and everyone else was having problems with Spot.
I think wasn't there an episode where Geordi was able to help a little bit with Spot and he seemed okay, I guess. But for whatever reason, Spot has chosen Barkley to be someone that she's comfortable with.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that it's Barkley because he's the most nervous, kind of a little bit of a wreck of a person on the ship. So to be the most comfortable with him is a little bit ironic and hilarious.
Yeah, yeah, it is. So that was good. So Barkley's gonna take care of the cat. Captain and Data are gonna go off in the shuttlecraft and look for the torpedo.
Yep.
And then Worf is gonna troubleshoot why his weapon systems like didn't work.
Yeah.
And
And
so
Riker's going to continue to hate him.
and Riker's gonna continue to hate him. That's right. And you get the scene where Riker like stands like right next to Worf and uh then they have that interaction right there. And I like that. The looks on Riker's face throughout this episode were like priceless. I think Worf Worf has some frustration like when he said he did 13 diagnostics, and then I just see like the look of Riker, like he looks up at Worf like as Worf yelled and comes up to him right next and he's like, "What's happening?" And Worf's like, "Why do you guys stand so close to me?"
Yeah. Very, very,
I like that.
very
Hmm.
tense relationship going on here, right?
Yeah.
So Picard and Data leave the ship to go off chasing the torpedo to get away from all the tension, all of the male tension going on board the bridge. This, however, is where our episode begins to take its spooky, creepy Halloween turn here, right? Where as time passes on the Enterprise, this is where different members of the crew begin to start displaying symptoms and things that are very odd behaviors. And it starts with Worf becoming irritable and extremely hungry.
Yeah, does. And he's yeah, he's devolving into this kind of version of himself, right? And then he's got this interaction with Troy. Troy joins him, and she's like, I'm cold, I'm thirsty, the air's dry, and Worf's just he's pretty rude
Yeah.
in that interaction too, and just acting very, very primitive. He gives that leering look to the waitress that comes by, and he's just kind of looking at her while Troy is right there. And um, yeah, that was good. And then when he goes back, Troy suggests maybe you need some rest. He goes, "Yeah, you're right." And then he tries to go back and rest, and he's restless, and kind of tears up his bed, um, gathers some matting, and sleeps on the floor.
Yeah, the bed shredding and the making of a new, almost like a nest or some type of sleeping area on the floor was very unsettling. You're like, if this was the first time you're ever watching this episode, you're thinking to yourself, okay, what's going on here? Why is Worf acting like this? He's really, I mean, it was a really intense moment where he wakes up and he doesn't know what to do, and he's just kind of like this kind of like creature thing, and then he just starts ripping into his bed.
Yeah,
And we get to see the inner workings of a Starfleet bed on board the ship. To me, it doesn't look like it's got enough padding. It looks very uncomfortable based on the contents of the inner part of the mattress. But nevertheless, it's a very unsettling moment there with Worf.
that's right. It was not a Tempur-Pedic
No,
mattress. I don't think
no,
it was
it's
that.
not a sleep number bed either.
Not Sleep Number nor a waterbed. So,
No, no. Waterbed on a starship. That'd be interesting. What happens if the starship's going like this and shaking? Your whole bed shakes at night.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So Troy's having all kinds of problems too. She's like super cold and she's super dry. So she says, "I need a bath," after she leaves the bridge, or she says that on the bridge and she leaves.
Or I thought
So
she said that from 10 forward when she's with there with
maybe there too.
maybe there.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so that was great. And in oh man, that scene where she is like in her bath and she's just running that hot water, and you
Yeah.
see Worf in the background there. He's like leering, and then he comes in and she says, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "I have to be near you." And then he like bites her. That was messed up.
Right on the face, too.
And it's just like big scar,
Yeah.
like as when they're treating her in sick bay. So man.
Good thing they have dermal regenerators in Star Trek because if they
Ah,
didn't, these characters would have some nasty scars on their face.
yeah, they would. I mean, she's got that big scar, and then um Worf breathed all that venom on Dr. Crusher, like her
Yeah.
face, right? So
Yep.
yeah, that was messed up.
That's that moment when Worf shoots the venom on Crusher's face, and obviously she's in extreme agony because she's screaming and groveling on the floor. That to me was the moment when he fully like has turned, right? He's become just a complete animal. He doesn't really respond. I don't even think he responds at all verbally
Yeah,
to Dr. Crusher, right? Because then she notices these nodules on the side of his neck, and I think she understands very quickly that they're venom sacs.
yeah,
And then not long after that's when he sprays her in the face. So you can imagine the pain that she's in from that. And then I think he takes off from the sick bay, and that's the last time we see him as somewhat normal Worf before he's transformed into this monster. Which I don't think we ever actually. No, I guess we do see him a little bit as a monster in the hallway when his
hmm
uniform's kind of
yeah,
shredded up and he's really big and he's got like this kind of like ridges on his back and everything. But that's the last time we see Worf as close to normal as we do before he starts to really transform.
yeah. That is, yeah, because we see him. I think we see him from below too when Picard is like in the tunnel, and then you see part of him as Worf is approaching Picard like in the tunnel in the Jeffries tube.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because then I think later in the episode, Picard pulls out something of the wall in the Jeffries tube and shocks the ground, and that pretty much knocks Worf out, right?
yeah. I like that.
But Worf and Troy are not the only characters who are beginning to exhibit really odd behavior at this point, right? The next two people we see that are really exhibiting strange behaviors is Barclay and Riker while they're in engineering.
Yeah. And Barkley's just all over the place, like zoom, 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 zoom back, right? He's going at like 200 miles per hour.
Yeah, he's had about
Uh,
20 Raktaginos if we were on
20,
DS9.
that's right. 20 like Arctiginos. That's a great point.
Lots of
And
coffee.
yeah, and Riker's just he's very kind of he's hard to concentrate, getting very confused, not knowing like as much what's going on. So you kind of see that happening to you do see that happening to Riker, like his inability to concentrate and remember things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's he kind of reminds me. So this particular scene in engineering with him and Barclay and LaForge and Riker's having a hard time keeping up and remembering, that kind of reminded me a little bit of the episode Frame of Mind where or no, maybe it wasn't Frame. There was an episode where Riker is really tired all the time. Maybe it's the one where the aliens come in and steal people in their sleep and perform
Mm.
experiments and put them back. I don't remember what the name of the episode is, but you
Hmm.
know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Um, and he's just tired and exhausted all the time, and so he has a really
yeah,
hard time concentrating and remembering. It very much reminded me of that.
yeah. You're right. Yeah, it was a good one. Yeah, so those guys are something's happening to them. Jordy's exhibiting some things too. Jordy's always looking very tired,
Yeah.
like I found, and then Nurse Sagawa's having trouble concentrating.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you were right. It's on the bridge when Troy leaves to take a bath because she keeps trying to jack the temperature up on the bridge. And Worf's like, no, 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 no. That's too hot. It's too hot. It's too hot. Right. And she's like, no, it's too cold. It's too cold. And this back and forth. I'm like, it's like they're already a married couple. I mean, come on, Chris. We both have spouses, right? We both know that when you're married, there tends to be a bit of a struggle and a little bit of turmoil over the setting of the thermostat.
Indeed. There's a disagreement with the temperature.
Yes, very
Yes.
much. And because of that, I think we can relate to this struggle going on in the bridge between Worf and Troy, with it being too hot and too cold.
Well, it's a good thing Riker was like having trouble like concentrating throughout this whole thing, so he wasn't like isn't as in tune, to maybe to what was
Mm,
happening there. So
that's true.
yeah, yeah, absolutely true.
Yeah, and based on what we know of Barkley and what he's going to turn into, it makes sense why he's flitting around, right? Like a spider would or arachnid of some
Yeah,
kind would. I thought so. Really quickly, I want to step off onto a rabbit trail for 1 second here,
yeah,
because if you look at all of the different creatures and things that the characters turn into, the makeup done by Michael Westmore and his makeup crew in this episode are incredible, absolutely incredible with the prosthetics and the makeup and everything. But do you think Barclays was the most elaborate and most detailed and most incredible of all of them? Because his was insane how amazing it was with him in this like transformative state turning into some type of arachnid, some type of spider looking thing. I mean, it was really creepy and really really disturbing.
yeah. His was the most frightening
Yeah.
of them. I felt more frightening than oh, Worf's kind of metamorphosis was
Yeah.
Barkley turning
Well,
into that.
Worf is mostly seen in the shadows, right? I
Yeah.
don't ever think we ever get like a really bright view of all of the changes that Worf underwent.
Yeah. Barkley's transformation gives you the that cringe
Yeah.
factor. Yeah,
Hmm.
cringe, like seeing him like, oh, cringe. And then you see those spider webs throughout like engineering, a little bit on the
Hmm.
bridge. You see them and you're just like, and part of it is you you get the glimpse of Barkley, but a lot of it is up to your imagination to go, oh, what did he look like when he's putting those spider webs throughout the bridge and engineering? And I think it's that sense of imagination that even gave me more the um, uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah. So there are many elements of this episode that make it such a great Halloween episode. And we've seen the creepiness, we see the dark hallways, we see the monsters and the creepy things. Barkley also gives us what else do you need? Something else you need for a Halloween type episode, and that is what? A jump scare. He jump
Yeah.
scares Picard in engineering, right? When he like appears himself on the glass between the console and in where the actual, warp core is. So to me, that's another element of this that makes this episode so great for Halloween, and that's
Yeah.
the jump scare.
Yeah. Yeah, that was good. That was a good jump scare. That's good. Good jump scare. I did like that you mentioned that this did feel like a haunted house episode a lot, so very much like a haunted house.
Yeah.
And um when Picard and Data first get on the ship, right? They're not sure what's going on. They're looking around. The ship is lost attitude control, so part of it is they need to restore attitude control. And they go to the bridge, uh, and they do find someone on the bridge. They find the body of the poor ensign, like on the bridge in his chair.
And what color shirt was he wearing, Chris?
Man, that was a red shirt, my friend.
He was wearing a red
He was
shirt.
wearing, he was wearing a red shirt.
I, you know, we joked about this before we started recording. I'm thinking to myself because he didn't get any type of like Federation or Starfleet like burial or memorial service. Should we give Ensign Ricky or whatever his name is? Should we give him a moment of silence here on the Random Redshirt podcast for another redshirt that's lost without the due proper memorial service?
We absolutely should, my friend. We thank the nameless red shirt ensign for doing his job.
Yeah. Please, for those of you watching and
Yeah.
listening, join us in about a 2 second moment of silence here. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, dude, the guy was just doing his job. So he was just flying the ship, man. He's just flying the ship, and then and he gets messed up. He's got all these gashes on him. He's got his bones broken. Like
Yeah.
who knows like what else happened to him? Like he's the only one at his station on the ship.
Yeah.
He
That's true.
remained at his station, this guy, this nameless ensign.
Yeah.
Um, and and after no one cares about him, Zach. That's the sad thing at the end of this
Apparently
episode.
not.
Yeah, they're making
Apparently
jokes.
not.
They're making jokes at the end of the
Yeah.
episode. So, and then
At his expense.
at his expense. So,
Yeah.
I was like, who do you think like did the lethal blow to him? Like, I know we were thinking maybe it was the form of Worf, or maybe it was Worf, but there were some spider webs like on the bridge too, so I wasn't sure if it could be Barkley. But like,
Could have been
yeah,
Barkley. Yeah, that's a good
yeah,
point. It
yeah,
might have been, or it might have been some other creature we just never see in the episode,
yeah.
right?
Oh, absolutely. It should have been, could have been another creature. But is there no remorse or accountability for the poor nameless redshirt ensign?
Apparently not. Apparently not. They die with no pomp and circumstance on TOS, and apparently they continue that on another 100 plus years in the future in the time of Picard and the Enterprise D, I guess.
Yeah.
So yes, we mourn the loss of another red shirt on this episode. But yeah, so that to me, that particular red shirt on the bridge at his post, remaining at his post, faithful
Yeah.
and true, a
Faithful.
true Starfleet officer.
Yes.
That to me was maybe one of the most gruesome moments in the episode,
Hmm.
right? There was a lot of detail there on the body and a lot, with the wounds and everything. It wasn't to the level that you see in a lot of these horror movies, but I think it does give you just the right amount as we continue through this episode and looking at the well-roundedness of all the things that make up something that's good and spooky and creepy for Halloween. This is another box that we're checking as to why this episode is such a highly recommended one for you guys to watch this year for Halloween and any other year for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, you have the body of the nameless ensign, and then the different creatures that are in the episode, and the mystery that's happening in the episode. It's wonderful.
It really is. It's absolutely wonderful. And Data and Picard, I believe the first signs they know something is wrong. So, well, obviously, the ship is not in the location it's supposed to be, right? Their rendezvous
Hmm.
point, the ship's not there. They finally find the Enterprise, and it's adrift. Its powers out. It's just kind of doing this like you know,
Yeah.
the way it's angled and everything, you can tell something's wrong. But when they get on board, they immediately see, okay, this is more than just a power outage or something like that. There's something serious going on. And from the moment they come on board the ship, it's very creepy. It's very spooky. They see the darkness, the hallways, and they get to a certain point where they end up going to the bridge. They
Hmm.
find the unfortunate Redshirt who's been somewhat disemboweled, and they hear a noise coming from the captain's ready room. I believe the I believe this is the moment where they first. Oh, and by the way, it's Ensign Dern. That's his name.
Ensign
The
Durn,
red
thank you.
shirt's name is
Okay.
Ensign Dern.
He
I
does
think
have
they
a name.
mention his name once, and that's why. Yeah,
My friend,
I was
I'll bet you and I are the have to be like one of the only ones that are honoring Ensign Durn right now in ever. Like I'd imagine. Maybe he's been honored, but I don't know before.
maybe it's
Yeah.
possible. But they go to the ready. They're outside the ready room, and they hear a noise coming from there, and that's when they discover Riker, who now has become this proto-human, and he is trying to get after the captain's fish bowl
Fish, yeah.
where his lionfish Livingston has been living, but it's also de-evolved into a jellyfish. And this is where things start to get real interesting.
Oh, I didn't catch that it had been devolved into a jellyfish. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It's a,
Yeah.
it's a very quick moment you see it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Then, um, Captain Picard's trying to communicate with that version of Riker and trying to say, "Hey, can you tell us what happened?" But there's no communication that's possible, and that just agitates Riker, and Riker goes after the captain, and
Yeah.
Data has to stun him. Yeah, so Data has to stun Riker, like as Riker is coming in towards the captain, and so they're able to stun him. And so at this point, they're thinking that something's happening to the crew. Perhaps they are devolving, and somehow they're able to get both Riker and Troy into sickbay,
Yeah.
and do some more analysis and tests there. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, this is where they discover the error or the misstep that Crusher doesn't realize, and that is this synthetic T cell that has invaded the genetic codes of the crew members on board. And it, I don't remember if they realize this initially. I don't think they do, but as an audience, we know that this initially started with the treatment of Barclay.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it
And then
did.
obviously it goes from there. Now, I don't exactly know what a synthetic T cell is. I'm not a medical expert, and I don't really understand how it can be something injected into someone's body and become airborne. I don't know if there was some type of medical scientific backing on them when they wrote this episode. If they had like a, someone who was there to, kind of advise, or if they just winged it and was like, yeah, that sounds good. I don't know.
They used another term too called introns, and I don't know if that is a real term or not. So I'm curious. Should look it up, see if that is introns. But one of the things that I did really enjoy about this was, and I think we both felt that way, was this felt very original.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like that a lot. And then um, potentially people can like devolve into a lot of different things.
Yeah. Apparently, I guess. I don't. But what's interesting about this and it wouldn't surprise me though if they had some type of. I mean, Star Trek was very well known for having scientific advisors around.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if they had some type of advisor that they ran this through the script through in order to come up with something that was, I guess, somewhat feasible with maybe a little bit of I believe dust sprinkled over the script. Uh, however, they basically believe that this intron virus is what has gotten airborne, and it's slowly evolving people, de-evolving people into different creatures because we all share a similar genetic pattern, and they use all this sciency
Hmm.
medical stuff to basically explain through what's going on. Um, but as this episode continues to go on, there's a couple small little moments here and there that are not as creepy, like the one where they find Spot has apparently devolved into a reptile, to a like a literally an iguana. That's what it is in the
That
room.
was
They eat an
humorous.
iguana, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But as the episode's going on, it gets really creepy. And I love the way they lit the hallways as they're going around the ship. And in Picard and Data have to split up in order to have things happen, right? And I believe when they split up at the in sick bay, uh, Picard actually uses some kind of spray that has like the pheromones of Troy
Yeah.
in order to lure Worf away from sick bay, or lure him away from the area. I found that very interesting as well. Uh, that they would do that.
I like how that all played out. I thought that played out great. Okay, and I learned that introns are a thing, and so okay. Zach and I are our background is not medical, so we apologize. But introns are a thing in DNA. They are an uncoded, like inoperative, like sequence in DNA. So it's real. So it gives more authenticity to the idea here, which is cool. So you know what I liked about that sequence in sickbay with Data and Picard. So Data and Picard are in there. They're kind of figuring out like how are we gonna fix this. Riker and Troy are also in there. They've got apparently Worf coming, wanting to bust down the door in sick bay, and P P Picard is feeling the effects because
Yeah.
he's going, oh, this thing's coming. I'm like feeling really nervous, and I love how he's playing that. And then, but he's got his mind together enough because he starts puzzling the pieces together. He's like, why is Worf coming in here? He's gonna go down in here, and then he starts puzzling. He goes, the bite on Troy's face like wasn't a lethal bite. Sometimes, that just could be a way that the primeval Klingon was trying to mate with its mate. So he starts connecting the dots here and thinking, okay, he's trying to get to Troy to mate. Maybe we can distract Worf by synthesizing Troy's pheromones. I really liked that Picard was able to piece that together in this moment where he's still feeling the effects, and then Data does that, synthesizes Troy's like hormones, um and then Picard goes, "Okay, you keep working on the antidote. I'm going to go distract like Worf." And Data's like, "That's really unwise, sir. Don't do that." But Picard goes and kind of distracts like Worf and does that. So I thought that was a really great kind of sequence and scene right there on how that happened. Him puzzling it together.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that
Yeah.
moment where Worf's trying to get through the door,
Ah,
because the way they made him trying to come through the door and the indents in the door, did that remind you at all of the scene in Ghostbusters where the terror dog is trying to get through the door in Data's
oh,
apartment initially and
okay.
the head's kind of pushing in? I had
See that.
major Ghostbuster vibes from that moment
I
on the
could see
door.
that. Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
So that made it even like more like creepy and scary. I mean, everybody who's watched Ghostbusters knows those terror dogs are really scary. They're really
Yeah.
creepy, really, really nasty looking things. So that really adds to the level of scariness and spookiness and creepiness and everything else involved in this episode. When you see this like large creature coming through, it's got Picard rattled. I mean, he is nervous. He has this heightened sense of awareness. He's like, we got to get out of here. And, oh my gosh, he's going to come through. And like you said, this whole intron virus that spread throughout the ship and affected everybody is now starting to affect Captain Picard.
Yeah. Um, this comes to my mind a little bit. I don't know if it was intentional, but there's a little bit of parallel because in sick bay it is Riker and Troy in sick bay, right? And
Yeah,
then Worf trying to get into sick bay. So it's this it is the formation of that love triangle
that's
that's
true.
there, right? And
Yeah,
so which was the same formation on the bridge earlier in the episode, and it is Picard that's kind of piecing it together and puzzling it together, like there, because in the back of his mind he knows all this stuff is going on. So he's like, why is Worf like coming to get in here? Um, and then because early in the episode, like Picard was like, I need to get out because there's all this tension and I need to get away
yeah,
from like Worf and Riker and this whole thing, this mess of a thing that's happening. So I thought that coming to my mind, there's like some parallel with that, how it's set up. The happened to be Riker and Troy in sickbay, and Worf is trying to bust his way in. So,
yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a
yeah,
really good point you make. It goes back to the beginning of the episode with that kind of tension between Riker and Worf, and then Troy and Worf sharing a meal together in 10
uh,
forward as things are slowly starting to change within them because of the intron virus. Uh, could you imagine if Worf had busted through the door with both of them in sickbay and was able to get to Troy and Riker? And you think maybe Worf's creature character would have killed Riker
yeah,
to get to Troy, and he would have tried to have mated with Troy and maybe harmed her more? I mean, there's a lot of things going through your mind, like, oh my goodness, it's a good thing that Worf didn't get through. And even though Data said that was unwise, it actually was a really good idea for Picard to lure Worf away from sickbay to give Data the time to synthesize the antidote.
yep. Totally gave Data the time to synthesize the antidote and save the day. So that
Yeah.
that happened. Yeah.
Yeah, the some of my favorite scenes in this episode are in the hallways of the ship. It's
Mhm.
very it really gives that kind of creepy, like we said, haunted house kind of feel to it. It's dark. There's a lot of animal noises, a
Mhm.
lot of like really just unsettling noises going on. And like I said earlier in this episode, I think the tone that Gates McFadden ensured was set in the episode, the lighting, everything that she brought together as the director to ensure that the episode met what her vision was of this was really fantastic. I mean, I can remember for a long time looking back on watching different episodes of TNG and watching the show over the years. I can remember this being, up there as one of my favorite episodes of the whole series. I'm not
Nice.
I'm not saying it's like top 10 or anything, but it's
Hmm.
definitely one of my favorite because you're right, Chris. This is I think a very, very unique episode amongst the franchise.
Yeah, I do think so. Um, and this episode is made more effective now because it's in season 7 and you have more awareness of the different personalities of the characters, right? They've had a chance to develop those personalities. Um, and this is a product of like you have these seasons that are 20 plus episodes,
Yeah.
allowing for some time for character development, and then different character like romances. But but I think with that, you have these opportunities for things that are very subtle. Um, and then you go like Barkley turning into a spider, having all those previous episodes that we had with Barkley, we're thinking, oh, okay, yeah, that's maybe that makes sense for
Yeah.
Barkley,
Yeah.
so um, and then having all those previous episodes with Riker, maybe that makes sense. All right,
Yeah.
Riker's like a Cro-Magnon, like
Yeah.
like man, right?
Well, even the
So
beginning
yeah,
of the episode when he was rolling around the arboretum with the woman.
yeah,
So
yeah,
makes sense, right?
yeah,
Yeah. I don't know how much thought was put into what each particular crew member that is featured in the episode de-evolves into, but it certainly seemed like it fit,
yeah,
given some of the characteristics of the character. And like you said, it's a really important point that you make. Having the 20 some episodes a season does give you a lot of time for character development and stories and relationship building and so forth that I think is really hard for a lot of this new Trek to do because they're only getting about 10 episodes a season. Strange New Worlds, I think, has done a pretty good job with the limited amount of episodes that they've had to develop their characters, albeit, there's a number of those characters we already know exist. So
Hmm.
you don't have to necessarily, you're not starting from scratch on a lot of, you do with La'an, you do with, you had to with Hemmer, these types of characters that aren't uh, legacy characters, right? Characters that were part of the original series. But ones that were already there, like Spock, and I guess to some extent even Una, because she was such a brief character in
Hmm.
TOS. Um, Scotty when he comes in, you can add your little touches and twists and things like that for when they're young. But we already know the characters, right? So you don't have to really go and be super creative to develop them because we know what they're going to become. But otherwise, I would find that having 10 episodes to develop your main characters would be really, really difficult. Whereas, like you mentioned in legacy Star Trek shows like TNG, you have all of these episodes to do that and to build those relationships.
Yeah, yeah. So just the very minor scenes where like you're on the bridge near the beginning of the episode, and this is after the weapon system has malfunctioned and Worf is at his station trying to do a bunch of diagnostics. Just that little like minor scene where Riker comes bolting up and stands next to him, and then Worf is irritated and says like, "Do you have to stand so close?"
Yeah.
That it's funnier because you had all that previous kind of experience with how they've developed.
So this is the first time you've ever watched this episode. You might not pick up on some of the subtleties early on because you're not going to realize that that is kind of the beginning of the crew starting to be affected by this airborne intron virus. Once the episode's over, or you go back and watch it again, you go, "Oh, okay, now I'm starting to see these things I didn't maybe pick up on the first time."
Yeah, yeah, that, yeah, which makes it cool. This
Yeah.
episode lends itself very well to watching it multiple times.
It really does. There's a lot of little nuances you can pick up, like for example, the captain fish turning into a jellyfish from a
Yeah.
lionfish and things like that. Which is interesting because the lionfish in today's world is an invasive species in a lot of places,
Oh,
and they actually have people go out and kill them because they've just taken over like coral reefs and they're decimating things and stuff. And yet here in the future, he's a pet, I
yeah.
guess, or something like that. Um, but yeah, this is definitely an episode that lends itself to multiple watches. There's always little things you can pick up on each time you watch it. But like I said, to me, this is one of the most pinnacle Star Trek episodes for Halloween.
Hmm.
And I very much believe that. And I also am a big, big, big fan for Halloween purposes of the Voyager episode, The Haunting of Deck 12,
Hmm.
because that has everything you want in it too. It's dark, it's creepy, it's spooky. It has has campfire ghost stories with Neelix and the Borg kids. There's jump scares. There's everything in there that you would want in a spooky Halloween type of thing to watch. This also has that. And if there were a box to check for all the different things that we would expect to see or want to see in something like this, I think Haunting of Deck 12 definitely checks all the boxes. And this certainly checks all the boxes.
Yeah, yeah, it certainly does. Certainly does. I really like those subtle touches with the spider webs in engineering and the spider webs um, on the bridge because
Yeah.
that lends itself to using your imagination on, oh my goodness, what was happening around here.
Yeah. Well, Picard and Data certainly didn't know yet at that time, did they?
Yeah.
I mean, they're roaming on the ship going, "What has gone on?" Like they're like the ensign who was killed. Ensign, what was he say his name
Dur
was? Dean
Dern? Dern?
Dern, Ensign Dern, yeah. And they think he's maybe attacked by some animal, which if it was Worf, that kind of makes sense to make that comparison. Uh, I want to know though. So Data spreads the antidote via the air, right? And I want to know a couple things. One, how long does it take everybody to go back to normal? And B, aren't there some type of residual side effects? Like Worf was this big crazy creature monster thing. How did that little thing in the air make his body go back to normal? How did it get rid of Troy's gill slits and all of these things? And Nursagawa even references that Crusher's going to need reconstructive surgery because of the
Yeah,
venom.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
how does that work out? I mean, they're not using Botox and stuff in the future, so I don't know, but they seem to make it all back to normal like nothing happened. Very,
Yeah,
it's the beauty of the future and technology, I guess.
that's right. It was like nothing happened. And then
It really was.
yeah, and then like who cleaned up the bridge and like brought Ensign Dern off? Like anyone acknowledge like, oh, does anyone know who did that?
Yeah.
They're all claim I'm sure they all claimed like they don't remember who did it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, and if Worf did it and they prove it, I mean, does Worf feel bad about it, or is he just like, meh, I couldn't control myself?
Yeah, I guess so. Poor poor
Poor
Ensign
Ensign
Dern.
Dern. Yep, poor Ensign Dern.
The only one at his post. The only one.
That's true, right? That is
Yeah.
true. Now, the way the episode ends, so it starts lighthearted and ends lighthearted,
Yeah.
right? And I love the fact that Barkley is asking if this is all his fault, right? Because of course Barkley's going to say something like that. And she says that's not really your fault and that hey, the first person to catch the disease gets to name it and she's like, "I think I'm going to call it Barkley's protomorphosis syndrome, which would be BPS." And I think she tells Troy that Barkley only de-evolved into a spider, but not only did he de-evolve into a spider, but he has a new disease named after him. And Troy's just like, okay, I guess I better clear my calendar for the next couple of weeks because she knows when Barkley's got something going on, he's in her office all the time, using up all those counseling hours. And,
That's right.
and maybe that's why there's no HR department on the Enterprise D because Barkley's taking up all the time of the counselor.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they need an HR department. They do.
With all the time that Barkley spends with Troy, wouldn't you think that Worf and Riker would be kind of jealous of him?
I would think so. I
I
would
mean,
think
I'm not saying she has romantic feelings
yeah.
for Barkley, but she never shows that. But it'd be kind of like, hey, you spend a lot of time with that Barkley guy. What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Kind of thing.
the ship might need like more than one counselor.
Yeah,
What?
for a ship that size, they have like 1,000
Uh,
people on board that ship, right?
yeah,
So
1,000 people on board. Yeah. You probably need more than one counselor
I
to
don't
deal
think
with that.
Troy could handle all that, especially with all the stuff that
Hmm.
they face and all the things they go through. There's no way. There's no way she'd have a line down the hallway to her office.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's messed up, man. And
It's
she's
really
like,
messed up.
I mean, her her boyfriend turns into like this giant monster and like and bites her.
Yeah,
Like,
like right in the
yeah.
cheek. Like that would hurt.
Yeah. Hmm.
I don't know. But I will say, Chris, I think this is a wonderful episode, not just to enjoy all year round, but if, like I said, for those watching and listening, if you like Halloween time, but you don't necessarily like all the really gross, gory stuff that you see in the normal Halloween movies, we highly recommend this episode of Star Trek The Next Generation entitled Genesis to watch around or near Halloween because we think it will certainly get you in the mood or something fun to watch with the lights off and the candles lit and a warm blanket near the fireplace on Halloween night if you're not going out, you know, participating in the trick or treating and all that stuff.
And your costume can be, I mean, your costume can be either like an amphibious version of Troy or an arachnid Barkley or a primitive wharf, a primitive Klingon wharf.
So
Could be those.
funny you mention that
Oh my.
because at the Star Trek convention this year, they always do a big cosplay contest and they have a
Hmm.
big cosplay parade where people they get everybody in costumes and they parade them through and they take them up to the big stage and I guess they have judges that vote and then winners. So our good friend of the podcast, Eric Allen Hall, the Hall of Fame cosplayer who we had on our podcast quite a while back now, he dressed as the de-evolved Barkley.
Oh wow.
And I think he got either first or second place in the contest. It was a fantastic costume. I'll have to see if I can find a picture and see if he's okay with us posting that on our
Yeah.
social media pages for those of you to see. Make sure he's cool with it. But yeah, he was dressed up as
Huh.
de-evolved Barkley, half spider looking, and it was awesome. He's so good at designing and putting together, very unique cosplay costumes.
Good for him. That's
So
fantastic, man.
there's a prime example of
Yeah.
somebody dressing as a character from this particular very unique Star Trek episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was great. All right. Well, episode one of our 2025 Halloween series is in the books, and we got some more awesome stuff coming here in the next couple of weeks as we get closer and closer to Halloween. I think we're going to be sitting down and taking a look at the Alien franchise, which will be a first on the podcast. I know we're really excited about that, and we want to include that in this year's Halloween series because, Chris, I think I can speak for both of us when I say that the whole Alien franchise, anything in the Alien franchise, would be a great suggestion for a Halloween sci-fi thing to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Very a- Alien franchise is very creative, and I like how the different movies and pieces of media from comic books to role-playing games like all have their own individual unique flavor and
Yeah.
feel, right? They definitely do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
So that'll be coming soon. We got another episode, deep dives for some Halloween stuff, recommendations. And then, of course, it will culminate in our 2025 Halloween special where we will give you our updated list from last year with new episodes and new movies and things like that that we highly recommend to put on your watch list this year for Halloween, any time of the year, really, but especially this time of year near Halloween. So
Cool.
we look forward
Yeah.
to bringing all of that coming soon.
It will be fun, my friend.
And be sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, our YouTube channel, and your favorite podcast platform to find this episode and many more available, along with all of our announcements coming up soon. And we look forward to bringing you the rest of our Halloween series very soon, right here on the Random Redshirt podcast. So take care, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.